called program cuts throughout the last 5-6 years. So,
And we still will have some benefits coming from the changes we made in the health insurance. The health insurance from this point on is going to go up because in the consortium, they're always going to go up. I mean, the cost of health insurance goes up. But we still have both of those other plans running out. They run for like 2 and 2.5 years out because they're always incurred and obviously. So once those plans technically and officially end, we will have some money that comes back from them. So that'll help us in the health year.
Maureen, to that point, is there a clear end date for that? Or could it be 3 years? Could it be? It's obviously if they've had something happen in that old plan, right?
Right. And the very old plan is running out now.
Okay.
So I will have a number in this year's budget in the revenue side for that. The next one will run out 18 months after that.
I'll do 3 next year.
Great job.
Yes, thank you.
So to Mr. McCarthy's point, and not, great job, both Tom and Maureen, and not to end on a downer, but the reality is, you know, when you look at the decline in enrollment, there's no reason to expect any massive changes. If we were to just take the previous 5-year average, I was just asking Mr. Colabuco the rough numbers in elementary school. The reality is, in the next 6-7 years, we're losing the equivalent of another elementary school worth of students. Now that's across all our grades and all that, but so unfortunately, tough decisions haven't stopped. We have to keep staying ahead of that, and which to Mr. Colabuco's point of kind of looking at using space in a different way and bringing programs that have been, for good reasons, maybe put elsewhere, bringing them back in-house would be important for us.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a naysayer, but I don't, and I said this the last 4 or 5 years, I unfortunately don't see that enrollment going the other way. I just don't. And I hate to be like that, but I'll tell you, I talked to a ton of people in this state. It is really getting scary. It is getting scary. And I just can't believe people, I guess I'm stunned. It is really frightening what's happening with population in this state. And how people just kind of go, oh, well, I mean, it's going to affect all of us in a really, 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 both personally and boards and in a really negative way. We've got to get people staying and moving into the state. And I don't mean to go on I'll end it there.
No, and it's true. I talk about this every year I've been superintendent.
It's not just New York State.
Where
It's
you have the governor clearly pushing an agenda to have countywide school districts, very similar to what other states have done. And in doing that, yeah, I could understand the consolidation of the different things, but then they lose their identity as a district when it gets meshed into an entire county, and then, so I agree.
All right, thank you for that. We'll move into additional reports, unfinished business. Mr. Colabuco, just want to provide an update on our data discussion. Last we talked, we're looking for kind of a date at which Forecast 5, I guess, would be presenting a rough draft or something that we can look at for the data.
Yep, so we have a meeting, Arena, did you say it was February 7th? February 7th. So then we'll be able to figure a time that they can come here and present not only the things that we gave them that I talked about before with the data, but to actually just put it up on dashboard and then be able to show us other really important things that we can do. But to your point a little while ago was comparing them to all other districts our size and how other districts have kind of weathered situations.
I know this is not what the board probably wants to hear, but I would suggest that when Forecast 5 is ready to do this, that probably would be a great work session night. Like, I prefer to not do it in the middle of a meeting, because that's going to be a great lengthy discussion. I know Mr. Pat's passionate about that, and we all have good questions, but that might be something where it's just that workshop night only on data, so that it doesn't become a 3-hour tour meeting night. So
I thought maybe you're going to recommend we all move south.
well, talk about that later.
Do it on a separate night. I would recommend that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah,
keep that in mind,
if you look at this piece of paper that was handed to us right before the meeting,
right? And you look at, for high schools, you know, New York State's accountability system, variety indicators beyond core academic subjects. You have things that we've talked about, you know, being ready for high school once it becomes available, school suspensions, chronic absentees for all schools, college careers, civil readiness, index of coursework earning technical education. This is really in alignment with what we're talking about. So to me, we could really firm up what we truly want to look at if this is going to be what stuff is going to come down the pike with. I think it'll really ease up what a lot of it,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. It definitely. When I saw it, when I was in, where was it, in Albany, when all the superintendents had to go down there and they talk about all the different components of ESSA, I was just thinking that those are the things that we've already been talking about, college career ready, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Yes. So I think we're like almost there.
All right, excellent. So, I guess once you meet with Forecast 5, then you can throw out some dates, and we'll have to schedule a work session for that.
Sounds good.
With that, move into other reports. Mrs. Wood, anything?
No.
Excellent. So I have a couple things. Just a reminder, which has been mentioned a couple times, but the city legislative forum is this Saturday. And I also wanted to congratulate Kenneth Robard.
Yes.
Yes. Recognize Kenneth Robard, Mark Walzik, and our own Lori Wood, who will be inducted into the Central Square Wall of Distinction. I forget the date of the ceremony right now.
March 7th.
March 7th. Thank you. So congratulations, Lori. And with that, I'll open it up to the board. We'll start with our student board rep. Okay, nothing for you. Excellent. Rest of the board, any topics you want to bring up before we move into action items?
Oh, yeah, I had one question, I thought, I'm sorry. Main Street, I know that we went through that whole process, picked the best offer, so on and so forth. Have we gotten any movement on that since then? I wasn't here last meeting, so I may have missed something, I apologize.
So, yeah, the district office, so the closing and when that's set for?
I don't think we have an actual date of closing, but we, I believe, are getting much closer. We were waiting on the title search and the abstract to come back, and I believe that is back. So now it's more logistics than anything else. So we are getting closer.
No, and that's going to happen. We had a situation where one of the pipes had broken, and we contacted the person. He was like, no, that's fine. You know, I didn't know you guys would fix the pipe, so we did that. So he didn't even have to go in to look at after the fact. So it's pretty trusting. Paul's doing a great job maintaining that. Similar to the Cleveland property, that we finished the assessment. Maureen was at last week, I believe. They're all jumbling when we sent the assessment numbers. Sorry, the appraisal.
Appraisal for the other building, yes. That was a week ago now.
Right. So then that's what the DEC just needed to have before they move forward with that, which I guess we'll talk about more when we have our determine what our to be determined date will be, or amount of time will be shortly.
Yes, that was a funny sentence or something.
Thank you.
Determine when our to be determined.
How many times can we use determine in a sentence?
We'll
Go.
determine that.
All right, if there's nothing else from the board, then I'll turn it over to Ms. Colbucco for the superintendent's report. You thought I was going to forget it.
No, absolutely not. So, good news for the varsity cheerleaders. On January 22nd, 2019, they took the SCAC League title at Baldwinsville High School. Congratulations to the following Paul D. Moore High School students for earning a seat based on their auditions to perform with the OCMEA Honors Symphonic Orchestra as part of the County Orchestra Festival. Jillian Julian, piccolo. Lily Fitzgerald, French horn. Hannah Zawalski. I'm going to get it right next time. Hannah Zawalski. It's not the glasses. We went with a higher font. It's just the pronunciation. Hannah, I apologize. Zawalski. And Cole Wilson, trumpet. I just came from the senior citizen dinner that the task force put on. Paige Winks was a huge part in that. We had over 100 senior citizens that were down there today, having a great time, and that's another testament to our task force, student government kids, and we do have a living legend here in Miss Deb O'Mara. Her daughter does a wonderful job, Miss Erin O'Mara. I just can't say enough about, what Deb O'Mara brings to this district. That is my superintendent report.
Excellent, thank you. All right, with that, we'll move into items for discussion and action. The first one we need to discuss before we make a motion. So it's the approval of the renewal with Pyramid Brokerage for the sale of the Cleveland School at 140 Bridge Street. What is in your board packet doesn't have dates in it. Last we discussed this, we had discussed 30-day increments for extensions, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Kolabupo with some thoughts on that.
So our thought was, and again, listening to George Lee's feedback, but also coming back and sitting down with Paul and with Maureen and looking at all the things that we have going on right now with the Main Street property and with Cleveland, that we thought that it would just be in our best interest for this one to go with a 2-month, rather than, we know they're not going to be done with all the paperwork and all the things from the DEC, and then come back and then extend it again. I figured we thought it would be safe to go with a 2-month window.
Make a motion to extend the pyramid contract by 60 days.
Second.
All right, so, give me 1 second.
Are you looking at the dates?
Yeah, just trying to figure out what we need to do on this form. So for argument's sake, put it out through, let's make it so it works with our meeting schedule. March meeting, 25th, so perfect. So through March 28th, we'll say? All right, so we have a motion and a second to extend through March 28th, and this would be for both buildings, it's not just one
Correct.
building. So, any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
I'm not thrilled on it, but
Just one afterthought, are we expecting some closure in the next 2 months, at least on the one?
Yes, we
All
are.
right, simple, yes or no?
Yep.
All right, with that, make a motion to approve the, item F2, the approval of the memorandum of agreement for the CSTA retirement incentive. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McCarthy. We'll open up for discussion. I will say that Mr. Bundy's unable to make the meeting tonight. He did want to express, were he here, he would likely not support it. And he points back to a couple years ago, we had a long meeting, discussed the retirement incentive we were offering that night, and the fact that we didn't have a desire to do that. My response to Mr. Bundy, and again, we're all entitled to our opinion, but this is a vastly different incentive. It is offering years of service as an incentive, and again, quite frankly, I think it would be financially irresponsible as a district to not do this. But that's the view on that.
And to piggyback, I keep hearing that I don't know if, I'd have to go back on the record, but I don't think we set a specific time frame on when we would do. I do remember stating that we wouldn't do one in the next 2 years. But I want to be clear, from my perspective, I never agreed to 5 or 6 or 10 or 22 years for another one. So.
I would agree with you, except that was my first year on the board, and I'm still here, and I have not been reelected, just to throw it out there.
Yeah, I thought
No,
it was
it-
5 years.
So
Wasn't the motion that?
there was a lot of discussion. It wasn't a motion. So we had discussion, and we kind of
It wasn't on our
looked around the table.
It wasn't.
No.
It was before us.
Right.
I guess my point is, the board changes every year, so it could change. And I guess I'm just, for the public's perspective, I don't think we can say as 9 board members, it's going to be in another 2 years or 5 years or whatever.
Right.
Things do change.
Right.
So.
The whole, going back to 2017, we knew we were getting hit hard, and financially, we had people that could retire, and then we wouldn't have to then cut people who would be the newer teachers. So the district had always said every year, technically, there would be a retirement incentive in the fact that if we had 10 teachers, it'd be this much money. It was 10 teachers, Maureen, was it $15,000? And then if it was 20, no, I'm sorry.
$10,000 for 10 or above.
Correct. So-
20,000 for 15.
Right. And so the way that it always was if they could get 10, then it would be that. If they got 15, then it would be the 20,000. But the district never really got those numbers. So it was actually the first time that they actually got those, which was great because we had the 26 retirements. We didn't have to, make the cuts that we thought we were going to have to make. But what was talked about was that type of retirement incentive where each person can get 20 grand. We knew that there was going to be a considerable amount of time, so we wanted to just say it to the public. So for those teachers that thought, I could go this year, but I'll wait till next year and I'll still get that money.
Absolutely.
I didn't want them to feel like, Cal Lupo, you didn't tell me, that was 20 grand I could have used. This retirement incentive started when a couple teachers came to me and with Lynn, and it made sense because what basically what it is they've got 27 years in, 28 years in, and to get to the 30-year threshold in our district, that's when they get the 100% single. So they basically said, look, we're not looking for any of the 10,000 or 20,000, but I can't do individual deals with individual teachers. I have to say anybody that would be eligible. Well, so what we said was we took just that one part, which was the 5 years towards their 30 years. And there were really only 4 teachers that were actually eligible that had 25 or more years that were able to retire. They had more than 20. Originally, it was just 2 teachers because one of the teachers wasn't sure if she was going to get the 30 years of actually working in New York State, but she did from a different district. So then it actually benefited her instead of having to then come back to our district and just do another year and a half. So for the 3 people that can do it, that have said that they want to do it, if you guys were to approve, it would be about $65,000 in breakage for us. So it's a win-win. 2 out of the 3 are PE teachers, that it's much easier to replace a PE teacher. So that's where we're at.
And we also wanted to get away from it was really not an incentive if it was every year. It was like,
Exactly.
that's what we were trying to get away from.
Yes.
I just want to be clear.
Yep.
Yeah, and same as I did last time, I will simply say that even though this is a vastly different incentive, not financial, I don't think any of us do, but it's not done lightly. The last thing we want to do is lose our longest tenured employees in the district, so it's not done lightly. But the reality is that as a district, we have tough decisions every year. This helps some of those tough decisions have less of an impact. So with that, any other discussion before we vote on it? All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining?
I can't really decide right now whether I support that, given what we've said in the past.
All right, so 1 abstention. So the motion does carry.
We did.
Thank you.
You're doing great, you're hanging in pretty good.
All right, thank you. All right, can I get a motion for item F3, approval of an overnight student trip?
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCarthy, second by Mr. Lloyd. Discussion on that, I'll simply say this is an exception to our normal rule for the board and everyone else to understand. Board policy gives us a direction of 1 chaperone per 10 students. It also says that the board can approve variations to that. This is a case where it is more like 15-to-1. It's the DECA competition. The advisors are more than comfortable with that, and it's been done in past years. So, any discussion on this? All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. I will make a motion to approve the resolution for polling locations. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. McCarthy. I'll open up discussion because it's really important that we consistently get this out there because it's a massive change. So we have previously gone down to 2 polling locations for the upcoming and for the going forward for our annual budget vote and election for school board. So this is saying that for residents in what would be voting district 1, which is, I get my directions correct, west of Route 81.
Yes.
And living in either, or everyone living west of 81 plus anyone living in Onondaga County, you you'd be voting at the Central Square American Legion. And for everyone living east of 81 in Oswego and Oneida counties, you'd be voting at the Constantia VFW on 49. So,
Before we go too far, can we back up one just a second? We just noticed that the attachment we have is for Winter Drumline for the student trip, not DECA.
oh, on your sheets, that's interesting.
So now that we've voted on it and approved it, I'm all good with it.
Well, we haven't approved.
No, it's, yeah, we did.
We approved
The
it.
last one, Andy.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're going back to that one. I
It's
thought you
not
were saying this
Yeah, but
one.
we're mixing it.
You said DECA.
It's winter drum.
There's only 25 students.
The one you're
Yeah.
talking about will be on the next board packet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Put it onto this one.
Yep, my bad. It was the Winter Drumline, Mr. Cole. He had just sent me the DECA one, so I had that one in
I
my
just
mind.
wanted to make it known to Andy when I call him to say, I know it says 10 to 1, but he is variation.
So we need to keep going on that.
We need to read the winter.
We need to revote that?
Well, no, so what we were voting on was the item in the packet, even though I misstated it. So we approved that one, barring anyone
Wants
having
to
any
change their
objections.
mind.
And that is the one that has the 1 to 15 versus the 1 to 10?
No, so the 1 to 15 was DECA.
It is the
That
DECA.
has no relevance at all to the one you just voted on.
Okay.
That one is all legit, it's
But we know we're good for the next meeting now.
And I'm all good with it either way. I just wanted to clarify, just
Yeah,
because
good.
we'll get somebody questioning. And actually, I have to give credit for do Chance questioning first.
Ms. Dickerson, I'm impressed.
And they got that, never mind. Any discussion on polling locations? All those in favor?
I'm gonna go with this one, even though I'm not real keen on it.
All right.
Attaboy.
Motion passes. Make a recommendation for the approval of F5, the contract extension for the superintendent of schools. Can I get a second? Mr. McCarthy, any discussion? Yes, I made that motion. And Mr. McCarthy did a second.
I just think this is a very good thing for our district.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
All those in favor?
Thank you, Lynn.
Excellent.
Oh, I thought you said something.
Oh, did you raise your hand?
Thank you, and again, I just want to say publicly, I know we put a little preemptive press release out there, but I'm very excited. I think the board should all be excited, and the community should. Mr. Colbufo is now with us for another 5 years, so through January of 2024, and again, it's all foilable. I know he doesn't mind me mentioning this because he's already let me put it in print in a press release, but to take it a 1.5-year extension to get rid of the rumors that he is interested in a recently opened up superintendent slot for no additional salary is a really great thing for the community. So, congratulations.
If you move into the city, I'm gonna be suspicious, that's all I'm gonna say.
You're able to edit that out, right?
That's all I
Can I get a motion to accept item G in its entirety, our consent agenda?
I'll second.
Mrs. Wood with the motion. Mr. McCarthy, if you haven't developed a theme, with the second. And for the public record, item G1 is acceptance of recommendation for the Committee of Special Education. Item G2 is the approval of disposals and surplus property. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Okay, I want to throw it out there, just so Tim can't do it ahead of me, okay? So can we do H1, 2, and 3 all at once?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
So, Mr. Bedworth is making the motion to accept item H in its entirety, second by Mr. Loyer. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is unanimous. All right, excellent. And with that, I will make a motion that the Central Square School District Board of Education hereby moves into executive session to discuss the annual appraisal, specifically the mid-year feedback of the superintendent.
Second.
Can I get a second? Mr. Loy, discussion on this is simple for the public to know, and that's with no action to follow. This is part of our annual review process. Mr. Colabufa will not be in on this. It's for the board to discuss, and then we'll deliver it to Mr. Colabufa's next meeting. So, any other discussion? All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thanks. Have a good night.